I've been pulling California housing numbers every single week for months now, and I have to tell you, one of them stopped me cold. In one California city, condo prices have fallen so far, they're back to where they were 20 years ago. 2 decades of gains, just gone. And it isn't some forgotten desert outpost nobody's heard of. It's a major Bay Area city, sitting right across the water from a place where prices are hitting record highs. Right now, there are around 37% more unsold homes on the California market than a year ago, the most since 2018. So who blinks first? The sellers. And if you actually want the truth about where this market is heading, not headlines, real numbers, do me one favor and hit subscribe, because this hits your wallet whether you're watching or not. Number 10. Vallejo. We start in Vallejo, and this one matters because of where it sits, right on San Francisco Bay, close enough to be the affordable escape hatch for people priced out of the core. That was the whole pitch. Cheaper than Oakland, cheaper than the city, still commutable. And for years, it worked. Buyers who couldn't win a bidding war in San Francisco came here and bid Vallejo up hard instead. Now that engine's running in reverse. In October of 2025, the median price in Vallejo reportedly fell around 7.8% year over year, down to about $500,000. Zillow's showing home values down roughly 4% over the year on top of that. For a city this close to the bay, that's a real slide, not a rounding error. Here's what nobody tells you about a town like this. Its entire value was built on one sentence. It's cheaper than everywhere else nearby. The moment mortgage rates jumped past 6%, that math fell apart. Because if the monthly payment is brutal anyway, why take the long bridge commute and the rougher reputation just to save a little? So demand thinned. And the people getting hurt aren't investors. They're regular families who bought near the top, believing the story, and now watch price-reduced riders go up on their street, one lawn at a time. And listen, Vallejo already carries scar tissue. This is a city that literally went bankrupt back in 2008. So when longtime residents see the median drop nearly 8% in a year, it's not just a statistic to them, it's a memory. It's the word underwater creeping back into conversations at the grocery store. On paper, the county gets flagged as risky too. Vallejo's county, Solano, landed on a national list of the riskiest housing markets, with more than half of a typical income needed just to afford the median home. That's not a healthy number. That's a warning light. Now, my honest take, Vallejo isn't a disaster. It's a warning shot. It's the canary. When the affordable alternative towns start sliding, it usually means the whole affordability story around a big metro is cracking. If it were my money, I wouldn't panic here. But I'd negotiate hard, and I'd assume the seller has less leverage than they think. Because right now, they do. Picture the ferry pulling away toward the city, half empty, while the Victorians on the hill quietly stack up unsold. That's Vallejo in 2026. And believe me, it only gets stranger from here. Number 9. Chico. Move a couple hours north into the Central Valley, and you hit Chico, which is where this story turns from worrying to genuinely surprising. Because here's a fact almost nobody expects. The single riskiest housing market in the entire United States, according to a major national analysis late in 2025, isn't in Florida. It isn't in Nevada or Arizona. It's Chico's county, Butte County, right here in California. Let that sit for a second. Number 1 in the country for housing risk. A leafy college town where students bike past oak trees on their way to Chico State. The numbers behind that ranking are what make it real. Chico's median home price sits somewhere around $460,000 to $480,000, and depending on which tracker you trust, prices are flat to down a few percent year over year. But price isn't why it got flagged. It got flagged because roughly 49% of a typical income is needed to buy the median home. Around 4% of properties are underwater, and the county's unemployment rate was sitting near 6.8% in the middle of the year. That last number is the tell. When a town is losing jobs, homeowners struggle to pay, and that's how you get foreclosures and stalled sales. Now here's the part that ties the knot in your stomach. Chico's market got artificially heated after 2018, when the Camp Fire destroyed the town of Paradise, just up the ridge. Thousands of displaced people flooded down into Chico looking for anywhere to live, and prices spiked in the scramble. That surge has faded, but the people who bought in that panic, who overpaid because they had no choice and no time, are the ones now sitting exposed as the market softens underneath them. And you can still see Paradise from parts of Chico. The burn-scarred foothills are right there on the horizon, still rebuilding, years later. So this isn't an abstract data story. The disaster that shaped this market is literally visible from the streets where homes now sit, with faded, price-improved signs out front. My honest read, Chico isn't cratering today. The word the analysts used was vulnerable, and that's the right word. I want to be fair to the town. But vulnerable is exactly what you don't want to be when rates are high and jobs are thin. This is a market where I'd want a serious inspection, a serious insurance quote, and a serious conversation about the local economy before signing anything. Because being number one on a list nobody wants to top is not a coincidence. It's a pattern, and it's about to repeat, harder, in the towns still ahead. Number 8. Reading. Keep heading north, and you reach Reading. And here's where a brand new villain enters the story. One that doesn't care what your house is worth, or how nice your kitchen is. Insurance. Reading sits in Shasta County, which landed 4th on that same national riskiest markets list, and the county median already slipped from about $371,000 at the end of 2021 down toward $355,000 by the end of 2024. That's a real decline. But the price isn't the scary part here. The scary part is the letter in the mailbox. Let me explain what's actually happening on the ground. All across the fire-exposed neighborhoods around Reading, standard insurance companies have been pulling out, declining to renew policies on homes they've covered for years. Homeowners get pushed onto California's insurer of last resort, the Fair Plan, and the cost jumps hard. Statewide, Fair Plan premiums now run somewhere in the range of $3,000 to over $5,000 a year, compared to under $1,500 for a standard policy. So the coverage costs double or triple, almost overnight, for the exact same house. Now here's how it kills a sale. A buyer falls in love with a place, makes an offer, then goes to get an insurance quote, and either it comes back at 3 times what they budgeted, or no standard carrier will write it at all. So they walk. The seller relists, cuts the price, and waits for the next buyer to hit the same wall. It's a quiet, grinding kind of stall, and it's happening deal after deal. The image that stays with me is the retiree. Somebody who paid off a modest Reading home years ago, did everything right, owns it free and clear, and now they're staring at an annual insurance premium that rivals a decade of their old tax bill, priced out of a house they already own. That's not a market correction. That's something colder than that. And it's about to get worse for everyone, not just Reading. Because after the Los Angeles fires early in 2025, California approved a plan, making regular insurance customers help fund a roughly $1 billion Fair Plan bailout through a temporary fee, which means premiums keep climbing statewide. My take? Reading itself is a decent town. The Sacramento River runs right through it. The outdoors are stunning. But this is the clearest example in the whole list of a truth people ignore. You don't just buy a house anymore. You buy the ability to insure it. And in a lot of California, that second part is quietly becoming the deal breaker. Remember that, because it comes back later. Number 7. Susanville. Now we go remote. Way out to the far northeastern corner of the state, to Susanville. And this one's different from everything we've covered. Because Susanville's problem isn't rates or insurance. It's a single decision made hundreds of miles away in Sacramento. Lassen County, where Susanville sits, posted one of the steepest price drops in the entire state. The median fell from about $292,000 at the end of 2021, down to around $237,000 by the end of 2024. That's roughly a 19% slide, nearly a fifth of the value, gone. So what happened? Here's the thing. Susanville is close to a company town, and the company is the state prison. The California Correctional Center is one of the biggest employers for miles. And the state has moved to close it, as California's inmate population keeps falling. One report estimated the closure could wipe out up to a quarter of the area's workforce. A quarter. Try to picture what that does to a small, isolated town's housing market. If a quarter of the jobs vanish, who exactly is buying the houses? Here's a detail that tells you everything about how much this matters to the people who live there. The city of Susanville didn't just complain about the closure. It sued the state to try to stop it. A town suing its own government to keep a prison open, because losing that prison means losing the town itself. That's not politics. That's survival. And the geography gives residents no safety net. This isn't like Vallejo, where a Bay Area commuter might swoop in and buy your house. Susanville is hours from any major city, buried in snow half the year, with brutal winters and big empty skies. There's no outside buyer pool riding to the rescue. So when someone has to leave for work, they leave behind a home that few local buyers can absorb, and the listing just sits. I'll be honest, this is the one on the list I find the saddest, and I want to say that carefully. Because homes at $237,000 and falling might look like a screaming deal on a spreadsheet. And if you've got remote income that doesn't depend on the local economy, maybe it is. But you're buying into a town whose main engine is being switched off. That's the trap. The price looks cheap for a reason. And the reason is the whole future of the place is a live question. Cheap isn't the same as a bargain. Keep that in your back pocket, because the next few towns test that exact line. Number 6. Eureka. Out on the foggy north coast sits Eureka. And this one might be the most head-spinning turnaround on the entire list. Because just a few years ago, in 2021, Humboldt County, where Eureka is, was one of the hottest real estate markets in the whole country. People were fighting over homes. Fast forward to late 2025, and that same county gets ranked the second riskiest housing market in the entire United States. From hottest to second riskiest, in about 4 years. How does that even happen? Here's the number that explains it. In Humboldt, you'd need roughly 50% of the typical local income to afford the median home. 50%. Half of everything a normal household earns, just for the mortgage. The rule of thumb is, you shouldn't spend more than about 30%. So this market is wildly out of line with what people here actually make. The median sits around $435,000, and prices have been drifting down since peaking in late 2022. The buyer pool is thin, because the math simply doesn't work on local wages. And there's a specific reason those prices got so inflated in the first place, and it's one you don't hear in most housing videos. The cannabis economy. When the green rush was booming, money flowed into Humboldt, and property values rode that wave up. Then the industry went bust. Prices came down, and a chunk of homeowners got left underwater, owing more than the house is worth, as the whole thing deflated. Picture Eureka's 2nd Street. Beautiful old Victorian homes, some of the best in the state, wrapped in coastal fog, the gray Pacific behind them, genuinely gorgeous. And in between them, weathered, for sale signs, and the occasional empty storefront that used to sell grow supplies. That contrast, postcard beauty and quiet economic drift, that's Eureka right now. My honest opinion, I have a soft spot for this place. The redwoods, the coast, the character, it's real, and it's rare. But I have to be straight with you about the trade-offs, because that's the deal we have. It's isolated. It rains a lot. The economy is fragile and still finding its footing after the cannabis collapse. When a market needs half your income to buy in, but local jobs can't support that, something has to give. And usually, it's the price. So if you're a remote worker chasing beauty on a budget, Eureka might genuinely tempt you. Just go in with your eyes open. Because from here on out, the drops get deeper, and the stories get harder to look away from. Quick thing before we keep going, because we're crossing into the top 5 now. And I'll level with you. The next few towns are worse than what we've covered, and the number 1 spot genuinely surprised me. I double-checked that data because I didn't believe it at first. If you haven't subscribed yet, this is the moment. I track these markets every single week, and you'll want the updates as this unfolds. Number 5. Clearlake. Number 5 is Clearlake, and this is where 3 separate disasters collide into one. Cheap prices, falling values, and an insurance market in full retreat. Clearlake sits in Lake County, home to some of the lowest prices in all of California. We're talking a county median somewhere around $311,000 to $313,000. And in Clearlake itself, list prices in the range of $269,000 to $298,000. In a state where the median is heading toward $900,000, that sounds impossible. A house for under $300,000. On California's largest natural lake? What's the catch? The catch is the whole story. Lake County has been hammered by wildfire, repeatedly. The Valley Fire, the Mendocino Complex, others. Enormous chunks of this county have burned in the last decade. And when a place burns that often, insurers don't just raise rates. They leave. So homeowners here lean heavily on the fair plan. Premiums have surged, and that directly caps what any buyer is willing to pay. Because remember what we learned in Reading. You're not just buying the house, you're buying the ability to insure it. Here, that ability is expensive and shaky, so the cheapness isn't a gift. It's a symptom. Prices are low precisely because demand is suppressed by fire risk and insurance pain. And values have been slipping. Zillow's showing the county down a couple % year over year. When I see a home priced at $249,000 around Clearlake, my first thought isn't, what a steal. It's what does it cost to insure, and can I even get a policy? Those are the real questions. Here's the image. You're standing at the water's edge, California's biggest freshwater lake, stretched out in front of you. A little cottage behind you that costs less than the down payment on a Bay Area condo. And then you lift your eyes to the hills, and they're streaked black, scarred from fires that came through more than once. That view captures the whole trade exactly. Now, my genuinely honest take, because some of you are already Googling listings. I get it. For the right person, Clearlake could actually work. If you pay cash, or you can absorb a high fair plan premium, and you truly understand the fire risk you're accepting, the affordability here is real, in a state where nothing is affordable. But go in clear-eyed. This is not hidden treasure that the market missed. The market priced it exactly right. The lake is beautiful. The risk is beautiful too, in its own way, right up until it isn't. Number 4. Ukiah. Number 4 takes us to Ukiah, in Mendocino County. And this one earns its spot for a reason that's honestly a little chilling. Of all the California markets flagged for price declines heading into 2026, Ukiah got tagged for the steepest projected drop of any of them, a forecast of around negative 7.6%. Not what already happened, what's still coming. This is a market that analysts are essentially pointing at and saying, that one's got further to fall. And it's not starting from a healthy place either. Mendocino County's median already slid from about $565,000 at the end of 2021 to around $507,000 by the end of 2024, roughly a 10% drop already. Homes have been selling a couple percent below asking. So you've got a market that's already down about 10%, and the forecast says, brace for more. That's a rough combination if you're a seller here. If Ukiah's story sounds familiar, it rhymes with Eureka. Same corridor, same forces. The cannabis economy inflated things on the way up, then unwound. Layer on the pandemic wine country and remote work bump that briefly pushed North Coast prices higher, and then reversed when workers got called back and rates climbed. Local wages don't support 2021 prices, and there's no big commuter base coming up Highway 101 to prop things up. So sellers who anchored to peak valuations are stuck chasing the market down, cut after cut. Picture the drive through town, that modest old downtown along the original Highway 101 route, vineyards and dry golden hills on the edges, a genuinely pleasant inland California feel. And then the listings that just sit, agents quietly dropping prices every few weeks, hoping this is the number that finally moves it. No drama, no crash headlines, just a slow, steady bleed. Here's my take, and I want to be precise. Ukiah is the clearest, seller beware town on this whole list. If you own here and you actually need to sell, the honest advice is to price ahead of the market, not behind it. Because the forecast says the market's still coming down toward you, and chasing it just means you sell later for less. And if you're a buyer, you've got real leverage here. Maybe more than almost anywhere in the state right now. Time is on your side. Every month you wait, the data suggests the seller gets a little more motivated. That's a rare position in California. But we're not done, because the last 3 are where the size of the numbers really changes. Number 3, Palm Desert. Number 3, and we take a hard turn, out of the misty north and down into the sun-baked Coachella Valley, to Palm Desert. And here the story sharpens to a fine point, because this is where slashing prices and still can't sell is cleanest. Every single one of the 9 cities in this valley posted a price decrease year over year. All 9. In Palm Desert specifically, attached homes, condos and the like, fell nearly 6%, down to around $510,000, and detached homes dropped about 4% to roughly $725,000. And homes are sitting longer. Average time to sell climbed to around 51 days, up from 44 the year before. Now here's why the desert is uniquely exposed, and it's a beautiful bit of market logic. The buyer here is often a snowbird or a retiree buying a second home. And a second home buyer has one enormous advantage the rest of us don't. They don't have to buy. Nobody needs a vacation condo. It's pure want. So the second rates jumped, and homeowners association dues climbed, and insurance costs crept up. That buyer just folded their arms and waited. And when your entire buyer pool can simply choose not to show up, prices have nowhere to go but down. The image on this one gets to me a little. Gated golf communities that used to sell a unit in a single weekend. Now those same units sit through the whole season, the air conditioning humming away inside, keeping an empty place cool for a buyer who never comes. People on local forums describe homes that were once expected to fetch $1 million, now listed in the $600,000 to $700,000 range, and still no offers. That's the sound of a market where want dried up. My honest opinion, the desert is the most rate-sensitive market on this entire list, and I think a lot of sellers here are still in denial about it. They remember the frenzy of 2021, and they've priced their nostalgia into the listing. But the buyer who made that frenzy is gone, at least for now. So if you're shopping the Coachella Valley, slow down and let the sellers come to you, because the data says they will. And don't forget the fine print that comes with paradise here. Brutal summer heat that regularly tops 115 degrees, homeowners association fees that never sleep, and real long-term questions about desert water. It's stunning. It's also softening fast. And that brings us to the final two, where the drops stop being percentages and start being decades. Number 2, Truckee. Number 2 is Truckee, up in the mountains near Lake Tahoe. And this is the purest example on the list of a boom eating itself. During the pandemic, Truckee went absolutely nuclear. Remote workers, suddenly free to live anywhere, poured into the mountains. Second home buyers chased ski town dreams. Cabins that had sat quietly for years drew all-cash bidding wars. And now it's the hangover. Listing prices are down around 9% year over year, sale prices down roughly 5%, and homes are taking a median of somewhere between 46 and 69 days to sell, way up from the days when anything decent vanished in under a month. The prices here are still eye-watering, to be clear. We're talking a median somewhere in the range of $990,000 to well over $1 million, depending on the month, because it's a luxury, highly seasonal market. But the direction is what matters. It's cooling, and it's cooling from a very high perch. One local on a Truckee forum put it about as bluntly as it gets. Tons of houses sitting for over 60 days. It's dead out there. The market is fading fast. When residents are saying that out loud, the spreadsheets are usually just confirming what they already feel. Here's the mechanism, and it's almost poetic. The exact buyer who created Truckee's boom is the exact buyer who vanished. The untethered remote worker got called back to the office. The discretionary second home buyer got spooked by rates and stopped writing offers. So you're left with a market full of homes built and priced for a demand wave that has physically walked out the door. Too much supply, not enough buyers. Cut after cut. Picture it. Timber and stone lodges and A-frames tucked into the pines. Snow slowly melting off a reduced sign in the yard. Long driveways leading up to darkened second homes that nobody's coming to this weekend, or maybe this season. Beautiful, still. Just quieter than it's been in years. My take? I actually think Truckee is a genuinely great place. The natural setting is world-class, and that never fully goes out of style. But it got way ahead of itself, and it's paying for it now. If you're a buyer with patience and real money, this is a market where waiting is being rewarded, month by month. And if you're a seller, you have to accept that 2021 is not walking back through that door. Price for today, not for the memory. Now, the number 1 spot. Because after all these percentages, this last one is measured in something bigger. Decades. Number 1, Oakland. And here we are. Number 1, Oakland. And I need you to sit with this one, because when I first pulled the figure, I genuinely double-checked it. I thought I'd misread the chart. In Oakland, condo prices have fallen so far that they're back to roughly where they were 20 years ago. 2 full decades of appreciation. The thing that's supposed to be the whole reason you buy instead of rent, simply erased. Gone. And this isn't some remote town at the end of a dirt road. This is Oakland, a major city, right on San Francisco Bay. Let me give you the numbers, because they're almost hard to believe. Oakland's condo prices have been running around 10% below the year before, part of a broader group of softer condo markets where values dropped anywhere from 12 to 31%. And here's the detail that makes it surreal. Right across the water, San Francisco condos have been hitting near record highs. Same bay, same region, 2 completely opposite stories. One side climbing, the other side falling back to prices from 2 decades ago. If you want proof that the market isn't one thing, this is it. So why Oakland condos specifically? Because it's not one problem. It's 5, stacked on top of each other, and every single one lands hardest on condos. First, homeowners association dues have been climbing hard. Second, a state law, Senate Bill 326, requires older buildings to inspect their balconies, and when they find problems, owners get hit with special assessments. Those assessments have reportedly ranged from around $5,000 per unit in mild cases to well over $100,000 in the worst ones. Third, tighter federal lending rules have made some condo buildings genuinely hard to get a mortgage on at all. Fourth, insurance costs jumped. And fifth, downtown Oakland's had a rough stretch. Office vacancy, retail closures, real concerns about safety. Any one of those hurts. All 5 at once? That's how you get a market frozen solid. Now picture the person caught in the middle of this. Someone who did everything right, bought an Oakland condo, made their mortgage payment faithfully every month for years, And now they go to sell, and they learn two things on the same afternoon. 1. Their unit is worth about what it sold for 20 years ago. And 2. Before they can even list it, their homeowners association is hitting them with a 5-figure balcony assessment they can't hand off to a buyer, because the buyer doesn't exist. Think about how trapped that feels. You can't sell for what you owe. You can't afford to fix it. And every month you wait, the fees keep coming. That's the emotional core of this whole video, honestly. We started with Vallejo, a warning shot. We ended here, in a real city, with real people who followed all the rules and still got left holding something worth less than when they started. Picture the glassy downtown towers. Lights on in half the units. Price reduced, motivated seller signs in the lobby windows. And an assessment notice slipped quietly under a door. Here's my final honest take. Oakland is not a dying city. I want to say that plainly, because doom is easy, and it's usually wrong. It's a specific type of property, in a specific rough patch, hit by a specific pileup of forces. But it's the loudest warning on this entire list, and the lesson travels far beyond Oakland. Appreciation is not a law of nature. A home is not a guaranteed savings account. And in California right now, the fine print, the fees, the insurance, the assessments, the lending rules, can quietly eat years of gains, while the headline price still looks fine. That's the thing to remember. Not fear, just eyes open.